politics. The Big Seat on 91.2 Croozefm. Great music.
Great music.
Great friends.
Great friends.
Please.
6 minutes past 9 o'clock. The 20th of October 2018. Good morning. Welcome on the Big Seat. My name is Wesige Banyagi. It is Western Uganda's biggest radio station, 91.2 Croozefm. Great music, great friends. I have two people in studio this morning. Sifa Safi, she's a panelist on the Big Seat, political analyst and a feminist. I also have Jogh Turinawe, who is a journalist and a political analyst. Good morning, Jogh.
Good morning, Wesige.
Yes.
Good morning, my friend Sifa, and our esteemed listeners out there.
Okay.
I'm profoundly happy to be here this Saturday.
Okay. Good morning, Sifa.
Good morning, Banyagi. Good morning, Geoffrey. And good morning, our dear listeners. I'm delighted to be here once again. And you haven't asked me, but I want to briefly take you through the week. And as far as I'm concerned, I will start with the good news. As an East African, as a Ugandan, as a human being, the good news is that last week we talked about model who had been kidnapped from Tanzania, and the good news right now is that he came back home safely. Of course, police yesterday, the IGP came out and gave hope to people of Tanzania that they went to school, they have what it takes to investigate and find out where this gentleman was. And what I noted there is that he said that the vehicle that was used to kidnap Model G came from a neighboring country that he declined to mention or to name for purposes of relations, like diplomatic relations between Tanzania and that country. And of course, to me, that really is another thing that should remind our security organizations that we should really mind a lot about who comes in the country, for what, from where, and where they stay, because it is said, of course, that the 2 people out of the 4 people that abducted him were from a different country. So this is really serious. And but the good news finally is that he's back and safe. That's the most important thing.
Okay.
Remember, he's a down-to-earth man, a billionaire, but who is once seen on a border because of traffic jam. And he's also a sportsman, like we know, because he's the major funder of sponsor of the Simba club. So that really means he's a down-to-earth person and he's a people person. That is why most people are concerned about his disappearance. But we thank God that he's back. And another thing is that we celebrated World Food Day, but unfortunately to me, it was given less coverage, especially by the media, where here and there trying to know what Bob Wine is doing where and all that. But to me, this is very important because it is a day that is celebrated to remind people of food policies, remind people that every citizen should have food everywhere. But less attention was given to this. And on that note, I want to thank those people who made it a point to go to Nakapiripiri, where it was celebrated in Uganda. And the good thing is they talked about food security and food storage, especially post-harvest methods that can be used to make sure that our food is safe for consumption. That is really important. But I call upon the media, wherever they are, media houses should really give such days great importance and coverage, because there are Ugandans out there who didn't even know that it was World Food Day. And of course, without food, we all know that nothing can move on. This again reminds me of the fact that we talked about maize last time, that it was a lot and we didn't have where to put. But to me, I said it was a shame that we can even mention that we have too much maize. And the issue was because we just see it as maize without food, without value addition. So this is one of the important things that was talked about on World Food Day by the Minister of Agriculture, that we should really look at value addition as the most important thing. But briefly also, let me talk about the fact that it is alarming that teenage pregnancies are on the rise, not only in Uganda, but Africa as a whole. Tanzania the other day was crying that girls in school as below as 15 are pregnant. But it is worse in South Africa, where girls as young as 10 are found to be pregnant. Last week, but over 56 girls were found pregnant in 2 schools in South Africa. So you can see what that means. And of course, it goes with HIV prevalence rate. So that means really the authorities have to do something about it. I don't know if it's neglect. I don't know if it is something to do with money. Girls are looking for money here and there. I don't know what the issue is, but something has to be done seriously to ensure that this is curbed down.
Thank you. Thank you. Geoffrey, how's your?
Thank you so much, Banyagi. My week was also punctuated with a number of events that caught my attention. To begin with, I was perturbed by the scenes I saw on social media of a man being brutalized by people in plain clothes. Yes, in Kampala. Of course, police came out and denied the knowledge of those people. They said they are not the officers, and if in any case, in the operations, they never use taxis. So we are wondering.
It's now just a strategy of police and other security agencies to simply deny whatever happens, because we know so well. They even denied a scene that happened during the Arua, I think, the Arua election, when they said they were Nigerians.
Too strange. But whichever way, whether these men are police officers or are not, the fact remains that we are worried. Because if someone can just come and beat up people in the streets and the police says they are in control, because that is their constitutional mandate to offer security to Ugandans.
Yes.
And if unknown people are beating us, the question is, who are those people brutalizing Ugandans? And I think that the Uganda police, we need answers from them. IGP Ochola needs to come out. We need to know these people. So it was really very bad. But on a good note, the new Nile Bridge, after 4 years, was finally commissioned and opened to the public. It is good. I know I've seen some people who are saying no, but at how much money? I mean, it's a loan. But it's a loan. We are going to pay it. But my celebration is that whether we pay this loan, we are ready with the infrastructure.
Okay.
So it was really very good, and I believe that
the president coming out to say that borders are not allowed to actually use and access this bridge.
Of course, even the old one is still going to be functional.
Yes.
So I think it is a way of trying to avoid congestion, just like you see how overcrowded Kampala is because of borders, and the fact that bridge. It does not only connect Kampala and Jinja and Bari, but it also goes and connects us to the neighboring Kenya. So if the traffic flow from Kenya is coming to Kampala, and then you allow borders, so you expect that there's going to be a glitch in terms of traffic on that bridge. So I have no problem with it. But also there was an accident in Mbarara, actually at Amahembe Gente, where a fuso it failed to brake and it rammed into a group of border cyclists who were parking at the parking yard. It was very unfortunate, but still fortunate that nobody died, only that the motorcycles were smashed. So it's still a call to police that maybe we need to ensure that the vehicles that are on the road, they are in good mechanical conditions.
Talking about that particular spot, if you go there in the evening at Mahembe Gente, it's very dangerous because you have vendors on the streets.
Yes.
In the evening, the mamas that always sell the chips and everything. And I always imagine how a truck can come and actually ram into them. I don't know whether the bypass is available for long trucks and heavy trucks to use, because the road is narrow and then you have a congestion of that road. I don't know whether police and the concerned authorities actually looking into how they can manage that place.
Yeah, I think the southern bypass,
yes,
that's the reason it was put there, that these heavy road vehicles, the long journey vehicles, they don't have to come through. They use the other southern bypass. For
but
example,
I don't know how far the authorities have gone on making sure these trucks actually use the bypass. Thank you so much.
As I conclude, Banyagi,
yes,
still as following a story in there is an international crisis, I might call it a crisis, involving the murder of the Turkish journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Saudi actually, yes. Jamal Khashoggi. And you know that many countries have now weighed in. The investigations are ongoing. And of course Turkey says they have a recording that Jamal Khashoggi was killed in the consulate. and it is indeed very bad. If that is proved that indeed they killed him, I see foreign international relations between Saudi and other Western countries, especially America.
Okay.
Actually, Banyagi, to add on briefly on this issue of the journalist in Saudi Arabia, finally, after denial, Saudi Arabia has come out to say that indeed he died. He died inside the consulate, but he says it was out of a scuffle. So they haven't said he was murdered or something. He said it was out of a scuffle, but at least they have come out to admit that he died inside there.
Okay, let's go for a short commercial break. When we come back, we are going to get into our topic of the day. Good morning.
I am getting this wrong. Get yourself a Pharaoh smartphone. Give me a Pharaoh smartphone. You got to get it 50. Empty nigga with the city.
Hurry up.
Pharaoh smartphone from MTN is back at only 129k. The Pharaoh A4000 One Plus is so affordable. It comes with 2 GB MTN internet and a phone cover. Get the Pharaoh today at MTN shops everywhere you go. MTN.
yenze alina ekyobbalamu akabanga ka super 3 akalaba ku TV ne bandagirira nje nkazanyamu nange n'embikola sente zanateekamu zaali 10 kati mpangudde miliyoni 2 ensanyo liyo
zeme kando hangule buri dakika 10 hari buri shiringi rukumo rwo kutekamo urakwereza umugisha gumwe ugufitaho umusupa jackpot sandeji uza gukoresa MTN nyigasita imwe mukagitanga star 3 rero kurahera ngenderwaho asumu yawe ariyo bakastoma ba Airtel rufecha kunyiga star imwe munani star ina star wenda hash rero the business number ishat imwe tekamo mwendo wenda kuzana ugurukurga ahashiringi rukume okusya shiringi mitware 5 turana mu namba zawe ishatu zo mugisha ukurga hara none
Why don't you guys recommend one of us approach like Odong So? He's the worst political moderator.
Yeah,
He's actually good.
But why don't you like him?
Pathetic. You like him?
he's not
So much.
He's not good.
I have no problem
He's
with
the
him.
worst I can assure you.
He's actually the best.
Why do you hate him?
It's tough, it's bold, it's real politics. The
No,
Big
enda yo.
Seat on 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music, great friends.
Great friends.
Welcome back from the short commercial break. You're still tuned to Western Uganda's biggest radio station, 91.2 Croozefm. It's 19 minutes past 9 o'clock. My name is Wesige Banyagi. I have a Sifa Safi, who is a political analyst and a feminist. I have a Jogh Turinawe, who is a journalist and a political analyst. We are now joined by Jogh Turinawe. He's a political analyst and a member of the National Resistance Movement and the RDC Mbara district. Well, he's here, well, from Bukweju district, Mr. Kateera. John, before we get into what we are actually supposed to talk about this morning is we didn't talk about the skirmishes that were happening in your district, Kasese, and the stopping of Honorable Patrick Oboy from accessing the district because of what was happening at the district council on the split of that district into 4. We want to hear from you what is taking place in Kasese as far as that is concerned.
First of all, good morning, my dear panelists and esteemed listeners. I have some flu, but I think I will catch up. First of all, Kasese last week, the other week on Monday, the district council passed a resolution of a split. What was funny enough about that is that it was moved by a member of the executive who is also a sub-county councillor for Chabarunga sub-county, Honorable Magwara. And he's the same guy who had moved a revoke motion in 2017, revoking a resolution that had been made by the Reverend Kitayenda Council, which was also agitating for a split. So last year he said we don't want a split. This year he says we want a split. His boss, the chairman, never wanted the split. So the FDC president was stopped on the recommendation of some leaders of the FDC who did not want him there. So they informed the police that what they had having in Kasese is a Kasese affair. It has absolutely nothing to do with FDC as a party. They wrote to police and police had to intervene. They were saying the administration of Kasese, the split of Kasese has absolutely nothing to do with Amuriata or even FDC as a party. So whether it was supported by party leaders against the will of some other party leaders, that was their business. But I have evidence of the letter written to the RPC Rwenzori East, notifying him to stop the Honorable Amuriat from going to Kasese, written by FDC leaders. Actually, 2 of them are MPs, and 1 of them is a member of the district executive. So they said, for us, we moved the resolution as the district. It has nothing to do with the party. We don't want Amuriat here. If you want anybody, he can summon us to the party headquarters. We can come. But anything to do with Kasese, it is for Kasese. So basically, that is what was happening. I found you talking about what was happening in the weekend. To me, as a sports lover, it was unfortunate that when Uganda wins, nobody wants to talk about it. And whenever it loses, everybody will come and say what it has gone wrong. So I want to congratulate the boys. I want to congratulate my friend Farouk Mia, who scored that brace. Those 2 goals were so important for us. We now need just a draw, either here in Kampala between Cape Verde or when we go to Arusha with Tanzania. So we are now confident that we're going to Cameroon next year, June, from 15th to 15th July. And to me, that is a very important thing, especially when the president helped the team so much in giving them a plane to take them to and fro, and giving the some bonuses. You see, FUFA also has some issues. They tell you they have no money. So when the president comes and facilitates these players and they go and they bring such an important win, and especially in 4 matches when we've not conceded any goal, to me that is very, very important. I wish we can maintain this and compete for the AFCON, because the other thing that this thing we want to compete for.
Thank you. I want to first of all let you know that this morning I think we are run short of time, yet the show is just starting out because of perhaps the decisions we've made ourselves. So it is almost half past the show time. So let's utilize the 30 minutes left to make sure that we exhaust the topic of the day. This week, very much in particular, was the eviction in Wakiso that happened in Rusanja. And I want us to help our listeners understand how governments can really handle this better, how the landowners can actually handle this in a way that does not disrupt human activity, and how really the encroachers are supposed to respect land ownership, and how the owner of the land still has to retain their rights on as far as their land is concerned. Mr. Kateera, you saw the eviction that happened by a one Chichonjo. I don't know what came to your mind when you saw this happening, very in particular. Use that microphone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Banyagi, the moderator today. And good morning, my fellow panelists. I am going straight away to go to your question, although I would have loved to have a preamble of today's show. However, what we looked at in Wakiso, in Rusanja, is very unfortunate. And I don't know why we are continuing to see such a scenes. First of all, and I was arguing with my fellow people on some social media platforms, this was out of a court's decision. We have got 3 arms of government. We have got the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. Each arm of government must be respected of what it does. So I am seeing that this was a matter that went to court first. This was the matter that the court itself pronounced itself. This was a matter that it is court that had ordered for the eviction.
So it was lawful.
It was very lawful.
Yes.
However, we have 2 things we have to differentiate. There is a lawful court order and an irregularity in the execution of that order. First of all, what court beliefs should do in such an incident. First of all, the court order must be very precise of what a court belief is supposed to carry out. First, there is where they call a schedule. I wish I had a copy and I show you. A schedule is where a magistrate or a judge or a registrar of a high court normally says you are supposed to do A, B, C, D, and on which this location. If there is no schedule, the court belief is now left with no option, with actually nothing to do. So now, before a court belief executes this order, a court belief, first of all, is supposed to have given notices to the people who are supposed to be evicted some weeks earlier, notifying them that on a such and such a day, I will be coming to do this work. And these notices must be served specifically to those people who are supposed to be evicted, such that on the fateful day, there is no excuse. And the order must have been very clear that we shall be demolishing. We are going to evict by demolishing.
And I understand this was done
because when you say evict,
was done prior.
When you say evict without the word now demolish, and you demolish, then you have done the bad. When you come to evict without giving these people notice that you will be coming, then it is also very bad. Okay. So, in my view, if all those processes were exhausted, then the people of Rusanja should not actually now complain. And the politicians should actually be taken and be oriented of how court works. Because the moment you start calling the media and start camping and doing what? But I also want to appeal to the landowners. How would you allow people to encroach on your place, build houses when you are seeing, without stopping them actually from their initial criminal intention? That's also very bad. Where was Chichonjo all this time?
Okay.
That's what
let me bring in John at this point. John,
all those years
we saw the president going outside, but I want us to address this land question. In particular to this case, but this as a case study. This was not unprecedented. We've seen land evictions happening across the country, and the president's call has been one: respect the Wasenze, the bona fide occupants. These people have been on this land for more than 12 years, and the constitution allows them to be compensated before they're evicted. But there is also a right in the regard of respecting ownership of this land. Someone owns land, they must have the right to actually use this land to their own benefit. And then if there has to be a compensation, who is to be compensated? Because there are people that actually encroached on this land illegally. And now the politicians, including His Excellency the President, are siding with the people. Yet there is one person who actually owns this land. How should this be dealt with?
First of all, the president was misled. Honorable Seninde, wanting to have some political capital in that constituency of Boboine, decided in Uganda over naturally what they normally use as kutomeza. He misguided the president to go into that place.
Yes.
The Chitonto guy was very thorough, was very legal, was very particular, and followed each step by step. The notices the RDC is talking about, he served them. The houses he was demolishing, he actually had compensated all of them. None of the 500 people you're hearing about was complaining of non-compensation. None of those 500 families was complaining of ownership. Let's
in fact understand, should a person be compensated when they encroached on land illegally?
Yes, no, because the law that was amended in 2010, the Land Act as amended in 2010, provides that once whether by renting or illegally, I stay on your land for more than 12 years, I'm a bona fide occupant. And a bona fide occupant, I have two rights. Number one, that if you are to sell that land, I should have first priority. And number two, is that if you are to evict me, you must compensate the property that is on land, not me. So what this guy was doing was compensating the property that was on the land, and basically they were houses because there was no forest, there was no much plantation. So the issue is, did he compensate? The answer is yes. Now he compensated these guys, and they never wanted to go. what they thought, or what some of them are even still thinking, was that there was that missive that was going through that the land belongs to one of the guys in State House, or one of the members of the first family, and you actually saw how one of them was.
There was a mention of General Sade.
So they knew that once they bring that out, then the president would feel for them and pay and buy. And actually, this is what is going to happen. The president is going to pay off this Choncho man, and these guys will stay there. And to me, that is very bad, because whether they are bona fide or not, these guys have been compensated by the same Choncho. Now, government is going to waste some other money to recompensate them again, because the government is going to pay Choncho. What I'm very sure of.
Yes.
Government is going to pay Choncho, because this is an entire parish. The Museveni, I know, will not let this whole parish be homeless. So the Museveni, I know, that is very generous. And to me, that is very, very bad. Here is a guy, stays on someone's land. It's okay. He's a bona fide occupant, and he has his right to compensation. He's being compensated. This guy goes to court. Court actually looks into the papers and sees that the compensation was done, and verifies and actually orders for the eviction. He serves them with eviction notices. As you saw the chairman LC1 confessing.
Yes.
They are put on notice that we are going to evict you. This guy comes and evicts them, and it becomes a problem. And they are here saying, you see, we don't want to go.
John, I wanted you to, before I move on to Geoffrey, we talked about one who has occupied more than 12 years. The individuals that actually encroach on people's land without regard of the 12 years, in period of 10 years, in period of 5 years. Should these actually have now have to mingle into the politics and call the president and their area representatives, rather than politely evicting themselves from an illegality?
You see, whereas some people argue or still argue, because that land act, I followed it, it was actually passed by a vote at night. It ended at around 9, and it was chaired by the deputy speaker. By then, Rebecca Kadaga was the deputy speaker, 2010. Edward Sekandi was not in the chair. I can tell you why it went up to almost 10. The issues were that how the definition of bona fide occupant, because that was the biggest issue.
Yes.
How can I move from here to Kunjiri in Banyagi's piece of land? Whether Banyaji stays there or he doesn't stay there, I encroach on that land, put up a structure. Because Banyaji has been too lazy to come and evict me, I have stayed there for 10 years, then I qualify I qualify for compensation. To me, that was bad. It was a bad law. It was made in the guise of protecting the Basenze. But it has now come that actually some of these Basenze are not real Basenze. Someone knows that I will come and occupy some piece of... Now, others are not, it's not about occupying. Others actually come as in the form of renting. Someone rents and puts up some small structure. With the time you say, I want to use my land myself, someone says, no, I'm a bona fide occupant. So the bona fide occupant thing has been blown out of proportion. And to me, I think the people who were opposing it by then were right. But we have nothing to do. What we have to do is put politics aside. What is happening in Uganda is politics, because it is in Chadondo East, because Seninde wants to, because you heard what the president was saying, that some of your MPs don't reach me, and he was telling Bob Wine. Okay. Now Bob Wine 3 days ago also called these people at his place, asking them what happened. So the whole thing is political. The rate of the fact of the matter is that Chichoncho legally owns this land.
Thank you. Let me shift to Geoffrey so fast. And Geoffrey, you come from Chirukura. There is one Rwandan citizen in Dahiro.
Yes,
Isaac Dahiro, that is actually evicting citizens, residents on, I think, quite a big plot of land.
Yeah.
And they've called on government. It is something that has gone on for quite a long time. I don't know whether there is ever need to mix the politics and the law. What happens if for example, community, because we don't see so much of these evictions in northern Uganda where there is majorly customary land. What does the law say about land evictions and land ownership?
Well, thank you so much, Banyagi. When you look at our to begin with, land in Uganda is governed by 3 laws. That is the 1995 Constitution, the Land Act, and the third one is Registration of Titles Act 1924.
Yes.
And all these 3 sets of laws I've mentioned, they spell out clearly, and they are very elaborate when it comes to land ownership in this country. And you know that you are either owning land as miro, you're owning land customary, you're owning land as freehold.
And
okay?
leasehold.
And leasehold, of
Yes.
course. So you realize that in most parts of Uganda, and to be exact in this region, land is either customary or is freehold. Okay?
Yes.
Now, if someone has been living on his land customarily, it means that person can apply and get a certificate. Okay?
Yes.
But also it is possible that under the same law, someone who has land as customary, it can be turned into freehold by land registration. Now, when you look at the structure of the law, it says that at the lowest level, there should be the district land boards, for example. And the district land boards in the district, they are the custodians when it comes to land matters. And in addition to that, in case me and Banyagi have issues relating to land, me and Banyagi can go to land tribunals, which are also at the district. Okay? Now, however, the challenge is that when you look at the current law, these land tribunals, for example, they can arbitrate cases that range between 250 million issues, meaning that issues that are beyond 50 million, definitely they have to go to the High Court. But the question is, as the price of land continues to increase in Uganda, you realize that most of these issues, they are more than 50 million. And that's why we have had issues go to the High Court. People have had these cases in courts of law. They have never been arbitrated and they have never been settled. Okay? So once the case is before court, it is now upon court to determine who the right owner or the right occupant of that land is. And that's why there this was talking about the court bailiffs and what have you. By the time the court sends these bailiffs, it means that the matter has been arbitrated and court has actually justified who is the right owner of that land.
Yes.
Okay? However, the challenge is one. You are talking of Choncho, but Choncho I think is just one case. But there are many cases where we have seen that some judicial officers, they connive with land grabbers, and people who actually justifiably own their land, they are evicted from their land, which is also a challenge.
Yes.
And that goes back to corruption. Okay? But also remember, some government officials, the other biggest challenge is some government officials, they are bent on leaking government information regarding government projects. I'll give you an example. Government, say it wants to construct the southern bypass in Mbarara, connecting Isinjiro, Kabare and other areas. Okay? Now there is a senior government official, Rurekyera, who has his money, but has a friend, Sifa, who works in government. And then Sifa tells Rurekyera, you know what, government intends to construct a road. Now Rurekyera, because he has money, he runs, he goes, he's a speculator now. He goes and buys land along that area where government intends to buy land. Okay? With an intention to buy it, to sell it to the government at an exorbitant price. And we have seen such cases where a number of people have been evicted from their land, or we have seen, especially in Uganda, where people have had to get fake titles in order to be able to get that land and in turn sell it expensively to the government. So it is an entangle of corruption embedded by some government officials and some corrupt judicial officers.
Okay, thank you so much. Though before we came into studio, we're talking about what's happening in South Africa, where there is expropriation of land without compensation, advocated by Honorable Julius Malema. Yes. And I side with the thinking that why should you be compensated when you did an injustice of grabbing land? and you set up structure. So I believe that someone should actually, land should go to the right owners without compensating.
That's my point.
An illegality. But let me bring in Sifa. Sifa, before we go back to the RTC, there was something that happened when the president went to this particular area in Lusande. Justice Catherine Bamgemerere said, almost faulted the High Court in the judgment that it made in favor of Awan Chichonjo. But we have now a commission of inquiry into land matters, and the court is still going on with judgments that have to be actually carried out. So, and what we saw is the suffering is now to women and children that have lost out time for school. They have nowhere to go, they have nowhere to live. I don't know how the Ministry of, for example, Gender can be able to help these women and the mothers and children that have to feed into the repercussions of these evictions.
Thank you so much, Banyagi. Like you said, the problem is in Uganda or even elsewhere. Every time things like this happen, it is the women who suffer and children, like you saw. But like someone mentioned, it is totally politics. Well, the issue of land ownership in Uganda is not very clear to me. Or if it is clear, some of these methods or legal ways of owning land are either outdated or something. Because I wouldn't imagine in some of these places, people still owning minor land and all that kind of thing. But however, the thing is, if something has been in court, we have said time and again that the problem is these land cases in court take long. I mean 5, 10 years, 20 years, people die and their grandchildren take them on, something like that. So meanwhile, people are losing out, first of all, on the value for their land. Secondly, the value for that land in terms of money is accumulating if it is to do with compensation. But the thing is, when the president visited this area and they talked about all these problems, mentioning General Saleh as being the person behind this, it totally shows that there are people behind these evictions, one. And two, if these evictions are very legal, there are people who are trying to politicize. Like I saw someone going there and telling people that all you need is not food right now and is not tents, and at the same time he's taking them push and all that kind of thing. So you're trying to challenge someone. Instead of looking for a solution to this problem, you're trying to challenge the president. So the thing is, there should be a clear policy on land. I don't know why. My friend talked about the land commission, land tribunals. We have land desks at different districts. We have now the Bamgemerere commission, but still the land issue, the land problems are increasing. So that really means there is something wrong somewhere, somehow. I don't know what the solution might be, but the whole system of land ownership in Uganda should be revised. Okay. One, we have the Buganda system, where here the Chapa, Mungara and all that kind of thing. So some people try to apply this Buganda thing in different other regions of the country, which actually cannot apply. So that really means there is a serious problem, whether they go there, whether they evict people, whether they compensate them. If something is not, if a solution, an everlasting solution is not really reached, then these issues are going to come up time and again. But people are talking about Mr. Chichonjo being behind the evictions. Yes, right, he said yes. But he has all documents to prove that the piece of land the land is his. And people are saying we have to be compensated. But he's saying I really compensated the real people who had occupied my land. So what do you think should be done in terms of that? Because someone said we are the people promoting this illegal encroachment on pieces of land. If I know that that is a reserve, for instance, and I run to construct a building there, hoping that government will come. If they are trying to construct a road there, they will compensate me. How is this going to end? I mean, people are doing this intentionally, especially like my friend mentioned, people who are loaded, people who have money. You know there is a road reserve here, and actually you go to the lands desks at different districts, they show you that it is these kilometers from the road, but you insist and build there because you intend to get compensation from government. So the thing should be, if you illegally encroach on someone's land or even on government land, there shouldn't be any compensation.
Thank you.
If it is a wetland and you know it very well and you encroach on it, you shouldn't be compensated.
Thank you. Let's go for a short commercial break. Good morning.
It's tough.
There's an office, some office in charge of veterinary,
the big seat,
next to Uganda Communication Commission office. That land has been grabbed by a member of parliament in this region. Now, someone
I don't believe in compensating these guys.
of parliament who is supposed to enforce and respect government laws. It is him who is grabbing.
This guy went to
Nomayu sisi ya head. Dino takastra yusi ya office za gwara pakinjero honka container. Now where that office is that man yatunjire nesa and it is government land.
And it's right.
It is him and the LC.
It's only on moral grounds that you can
the issue of fake land titles is on the internet, especially in Uganda. Sifa, you own land customary land. Even if I don't have a title, but it is my land.
But someone goes the title.
Yes, and processes the title. He comes here, I have the title to this land. And you yes, because you don't have anything tangible.
On 91.2 Croozefm. Great music.
Great music.
Great friends.
Great friends.
The big city team, and we are talking about land and land matters and how the land policy can actually help solve the challenges as far as land is concerned. If you're joining us, I have Sifa Safi, Jogh Turinawe, Mr. Kateera, the RDC, and Jogh Turinawe. Let me come to now. The challenge now seems to be the mix-up between the law and the politics. How can we have the law being implemented without really allowing the politics interfering? Because at the end of the day, the challenges in this country seems to be like it's always about the next election.
Thank you very much. In fact, you have given yourself the answer. First of all, I want to inform the listeners and disagree maybe with my colleague John. There is nothing wrong with the law. In fact, the law is protecting many people. For example, the law also stipulates that if your own relative misses from you or any other relative supposed to know you for 8 years, you are presumed to be a dead person. Now, if the law says if somebody stayed on your land for a period of 12 years without being challenged at all in any court of law, then he should be regarded as a bona fide occupant of that land. Because if that land really had the owner, where was he in the 12 years? So this one was also aimed at protecting many people who were staying on the Revanja, on people's land in Uganda and the rest for all those years, and who are being evicted enemies. Now, what should we do? In my view, politics has overridden everything in this country. And it is high time that we stand up and be counted. Yes. And said, we must respect the arms of government. What court does is not supposed to be challenged by a mere person, but the same court. I know, Mr. Rurekyera, and I agree with you, that we have corruption in our judicial system. But our judicial system also has provided where you put your grievances. If a magistrate grade 1 is corrupted, you have the right to appeal against that judgment of the grade 1 to the chief magistrate.
Yes.
No, not the chief magistrate. Actually, from grade 1, you go to the high court to the judge. Okay? Now, however, I also agree that there is backlog of how the cases in our courts of law are determined.
And it kind of creates an
yes. Yeah, true. If all this could be determined in the required time frame, all this one would not be coming on.
But even what is determined is actually causing problems, because now on implementations of the resolutions of court, it's
this is why I'm saying you don't mix politics. You must respect the judicial also, what it does. In fact, one of my colleagues was arguing, not this one here, was arguing that when a court order is brought to you before the RDC, you cause a village meeting, then you hear what the community says, supposing that is not your work. In other words, the moment you convene a village meeting, you are actually establishing another court to challenge the court order, to challenge the court judgment. A judgment of court is only challenged by a higher court.
Yes.
Not you, the community, not anybody to question the judgment. By the way, let me tell you, when you are enforcing a court order, there is no negotiation. Remember, you would have already exhausted all the procedures in court and you are just refusing to vacate.
So
minimum force must be applied.
Let me put something to you straight up. Now that the president says something has to be done, these people should not be treated in the same way they were. Do you think the president is right? Because eventually, billions of...
First of all, we have already established from all the evidence that they established on this panel that the president was misled.
Yes.
For example, justice Bamugemerire, if she's proved that, if Choncho proves his case, she would have misled the president. She is the person, that's why the president had to come there with all these people to advise him on that day. There was the politicians, there was Justice Bamugemerire. These are the people who are supposed to help the president, advise him on what was taking place. And by the way, that's why the president did not order for the arrest of Chichoncho immediately, because he had already seen some sense. That's why he was saying, Bamugemerire establish, and then we see what to do.
Yeah,
he was not sure.
Thank you. Conclude.
Well, thank you so much, Vanaj. I want to respond to what the RDC said, that if you go to one court and you feel justice has not been rendered, you can appeal. I understand that there's a legal provision. But the challenge still remains one, corruption. I want to give you one scenario of a man in Churhura who has been in court. He bought land in 2001. He paid his 200 cows. The person who sold him land refused to vacate.
After getting
the 200 cows. They have been in court. It is now 18 years. This man went to court, and the other party has more money than him.
And he actually has no evidence because the payment was in kind.
Yeah. It's not in kind. There was an agreement.
Okay.
In terms of, he paid in terms of cows.
They converted.
They converted.
Okay.
And he went to court. The other party has more money, he keeps buying. To the extent that the case has now gone to the High Court, but even then, the same judges of the High Court have not pronounced themselves on the matter because of the money.
Okay, thank you.
So corruption remains a hindrance to justice.
Thank you so much. And now I think the resolution we can make about the topic is that law should be separated from the politics.
By the way,
and there has to be a respect.
By the way, another thing, Banyagi,
yes.
The police should be out of those illegal evictions. Sometimes the police is misled to carry out evictions which are even illegal.
Yes, Sifa.
Banyagi, we still lack public sensitization on issues of land. Someone owns customary land, owns land customarily, and they don't know what to do next because a rich man is going to come and possess a title within a night and own this land. Okay. And moreover, when they go to court, you cannot challenge him. So there is still a problem of fake titles in Uganda.
Thank you. Before we really go, I want to put something to John. When the president was talking about the victory that he had in 2016 elections, he said he only lost Kampala because Jennifer Musisi, because of the politics of Jennifer Musisi and sending away the vendors. And now we know that Jennifer Musisi, after about 2 years, has written a resignation to that effect. Do you think that in a way drew out Jennifer from the interest of that docket?
The president said that she was doing the right thing in a bad way. Jennifer Musisi did not cite any interference from the executive as any reason for her resignation. And to me, I respect someone who says enough is enough, I've resigned. I think pondering on talking about Musisi's resignation is a very big issue that I cannot talk in the next 30 seconds remaining. But for me, I congratulate her for that spirit. There are very, very few people, even in our politics. I think in our senior politicians, one that resigned and said I'm not coming back was John Nassasara, even when he was popular. So to me, it is a nice thing to do. And lastly, I wish my daughter a happy birthday. She's making 1 year today.
Oh, yeah.
So happy birthday. she's made 1 year, and you remember she was born on a Friday and a Saturday I was here with you.
Yes.
By that time, I think you were still an economist, not yet the moderator.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Anyone who wants to talk about Jennifer Mrs. Resignation before we go? Yes. And our time is out.
Thank you very much. In my view, I have been following ever since Jennifer Musisi was appointed to that post. She has done a very commendable job in Kampala. But what I want to say is that there will be no reform as long as we still have elections in Kampala.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's meet next Saturday on the big seat. Good morning.